welcome everybody back to another episode of the Lodgz Podcast. I am your host, Juan Rodriguez. Glad to have you guys here. Special episode being here in Orlando with Gabe Causse, who has joined us. He is the head of partnerships. Esports partnership manager for Magic Gaming. So super excited to dive in it and talk with you here in a second. Before we get going, we do have our first official sponsor for the episodes. So we had one down in Miami that they did the location for us, but this is an actual sponsor of this particular episode. So our sponsor is Label Aid, and Label Aid is a custom label company established in 1976, trusted by clients around the globe to deliver durable precision label products at competitive prices. Their custom labels utilize screen printing, digital printing, and flexographic printing to achieve the look and performance that you desire. The digital printing includes graphic overlays, panels, nameplates, labels, and decals. So if you're a team, organization, or individual, imagine creating your own graphic overlay for your drone. Your logo, colors, and design can be created, and you can have your drone basically shooting in style. If you have a fitness room in your content house or stream house, imagine decking out your treadmill in that same design to add that extra element of customization to your fitness room. To find out more about Label Aid and the products they offer, you guys can check the link in the show notes below. We'll have that there for you guys. And so as part of this sponsorship, we have a really fun giveaway that I'm excited about. I think you guys as the listeners will be excited about. So we're giving away one item, and will either be a Scuff Infinity Pro for our PS4 players, or if you're on Xbox, we're going to be giving you a Scuff Prestige. Or if you're on the mouse and keyboard, we're going to give you guys the Razer Huntsman Elite Gaming Keyboard. So one winner. If you're a PS4, Xbox, mice and keyboard, we got you. So we will do that. If you're listening to this right now, the tweet will be out. Just go follow the instructions there, and you'll be entered into the giveaway. So super excited about that. Thank you to the team over at Label Aid for sponsoring the episode and getting with us to really just give back to the listeners, and I'm really excited for that. So with that being said, we'll hop into the episode. Gabriel, I'm super excited to chat with you and hear your story. I know we've talked a little bit before hopping on the mics and going live here, but if you just, I know we both really just want to walk through your life story. So I don't know where's a good place for you to start or where you really want to begin your journey with us, but we kind of love to hear your background story.
Sure. Well, thanks for being here. Welcome to Orlando.
Thank you. Appreciate you hosting us.
Yeah. So. How much time do we have? I mean,
we got about 45, 50 minutes. I don't want to bite too much into your time either, though. So.
No, you're good. I'm glad you guys are here.
Yeah.
So first of all, I was born and raised in France,
okay.
As you might hear. And so I grew up there until I was 21. Technically, I left at 19 and I came back. But so grew up in France. My whole family's there.
Okay.
I obviously a different culture, different world, but. I had a brother who lived here in the U.S. He was actually in Colorado.
Okay.
And so every summer I used to go and just try to work as hard as I could and make as much money as I could so that I could actually come here and visit him.
Okay.
So we usually just work, do the whole summer, and then at the end of the summer just take a trip, come here to the U.S. At that time I didn't speak a word though. So I grew up, French only. My parents are French. Actually, if you do my genealogy, French are 100% until as far as we can go. So. Don't hold it against me. And then so I had been here in the U.S. a few times.
Okay.
I just couldn't say anything. And then when I was 19, I started a mission for my church. So I left 2 years, just great experience. And during those 2 years, all you do is just serve, and you just put your own life on standby. So it gives you a lot of time to think about also yourself and what you're going to do when you get back.
Yeah.
And so got back to France. I found a job. I used to work for Rolex.
Okay.
The watches.
Yeah.
Headquartered in Geneva, Switzerland.
Okay.
And I grew up right next to the border. So worked there for about a year and just thinking this is not what I want to do. My degree back then had nothing to do with what I do now.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought I just got to try something else. So I remember telling everybody, hey, I'm going to go. I'm just going to find college and just go back to school. So I started school. I started college at age 23, 24.
And that was over here, or that
here
was
in the U.S.
In the U.S. Okay.
So I found a school through my church in Utah, in Salt Lake.
Okay.
It's just a cheaper way for me to come here.
Yeah.
So I did my associates there.
Okay.
Met my wife within 2 months or 3 months being there.
That's awesome. That's always a win.
Yeah, that wasn't the plan.
Right.
But I always mess with her until I've been stuck here ever since. Because I can't go back without her. Right. So met her there. I was a soccer player myself.
Okay.
I've been huge into soccer my whole life, and my goal was to not have to pay for my schooling. So that's what I did. I applied to a bunch of schools. I got a scholarship in BYU, Hawaii.
Okay.
So my who wasn't my wife yet, but my girlfriend and I moved to Hawaii together.
Interesting.
Got engaged there, played soccer. And then again, I was like, you kind of feel like either it's a place where you're just not. And as wonderful as Hawaii can be, they're just little things that, just weren't for us. Like, short, funny example, but we, as soon as we got there, so then in 2010, we get to school, and they were like, hey, we're so sorry, there's just no housing for both of you. It's like, all right. So we moved from the mainland, have no clue where to go. We don't know anybody there. She had a friend, so she's like, hey, I got a place to stay. Yeah. I had to just find a way. So I literally just went knocking on doors around Hawaii, right in Laie.
Wow.
North Shore.
Okay.
And that's how I found my rent. And so again, something I learned from my mission, right? Just going door to door and
just going, yeah.
Just if you're stuck, back against the wall, that's just what you do. So I did that, and then.
So how many years did you play when you were there? You played what in Hawaii?
A year.
A year?
Yeah.
Okay.
I actually broke my foot when I was there.
Okay.
So not the best season.
Yeah.
And just the team as a whole, it just wasn't a great. Soccer wasn't a good fit, and so. Again, back against the wall, I said, you know what, I'm going to apply to as many schools as I can. So I think I applied to 51 schools across the country. Yeah. And simply because I knew I was going to be accepted somewhere. I was a good student.
Right.
But I wanted to find one that had a strong soccer team that had and then eventually I just kind of, filtered them all the way down to there's one who gave me a full ride, which is UCCS, the University of Colorado, Colorado Springs. Yeah. So we ended up in Colorado, which is where my wife is from. Okay. Anyway, so that worked out, and and then studied sports management. So that was really my first step into sports, business. Right. Studied sports management, great school, and great experience. We started raising a family out there. And then when I graduated, so as part of the degree, you have to intern. So I had internships with the Olympic Committee. It's actually based out there in Colorado Springs. Okay. And then started my career. Worked in recruiting for a little while. I had kind of that sales background, so I wanted to try that. And obviously, I knew that's not what I want to do long term. And so I've when it comes to the esports piece, I've always played video games. I can't say that I've been like a hardcore gamer my whole life. But I've always played, especially sports games. Got you. Back as a kid in France, I used to play Madden. That's actually how I learned the rules of American football. Really? Yeah. Was through the video game. That's crazy. So I used to play Madden. I played FIFA, obviously. Right. I played FIFA. And then once I got here, I started playing 2K. But so I've always played something. Right. I just never thought it become a part of my career, kind of thing. Exactly. Yeah. So I worked for the recruiting company, then started working for a professional soccer team out there called the Switchbacks. Okay. Yeah. It's a second tier pro soccer team. Yeah. And worked for them for about 3.5 years. Made my way up to I was the director of partnerships for them, and then until got hold of Magic and decided to move the family and try something different. Right. So really, the position with the Magic, I've been here for about 2 years now, just past my 2-year mark. Okay. And they literally hired me when they launched the Magic Gaming team, which was an esports division. Right. So does that give you kind of a better idea of who I am? No, definitely. And I think for people listening, they'll really I want to dive deep into a couple different sections, if that's cool to just deep dive, but it seems really like at a very early age, you had to learn how to adjust really quickly. You were bouncing around different places. Like you're saying, your back was against the wall a few times. How do you think that has, shaped you to where you're at now? Having those experiences where, you came over to the United States, you go from the United States to Hawaii, you have that experience in Hawaii. When you were going through, was that tough for you? Was it just something that you think you had the ability to naturally do, or kind of elaborate on that? What was that experience like? Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, it's tough because like I can't say I had like a tough childhood. Like my parents like always took care of us and gave us what we needed. So it's not like like a struggle from the beginning. But once I was on my own, that's just the world, right? Like it's not always fair. You just gotta keep moving. So it's been, I think the biggest challenge obviously was the language, right? I didn't speak the English until I went on my mission, and then obviously I had a lot of people I was with every day that spoke. They were either Americans or Canadians. Right. So that's kind of how I picked it up, and then then I learned at school and all that. So it's, again, I mean, I think everybody knows that by now. It's when your back's against the wall. That's where you really find out who you are, right? Exactly. Being away from my family, I remember. Dude, that was a sad time. Like,
how was that being away from during the summers? Even at the beginning, was that tough on them when you? Yeah,
summers are fine because I had family here, and I knew like it's just gonna be all all good. Like it was just buy some clothes and be excited. Like, because that's what I love to do. But no, I mean, what was hard is like I remember I set my mind on leaving, and I was like, hey, I'm gonna go to college. I got accepted, and then I remember passing the customs at the airport. My parents and my brothers had dropped me off, and I remember passing it and like looking back at them and thinking, oh my gosh, like what am I doing? Like, and I think for any like big decision that you make in life, there is that time, that short, like, oh my gosh, like this is crazy. I don't know if this is what you know what I mean?
Right, where you're kind of taking a leap of faith almost and hoping that you're making the right decision.
But it all sounds good until you get there, and then you really have those few minutes where it's like, like, is this the right thing to do, right?
right.
And then you just, since that's it, you gotta move forward and go along. So, so that was one time when it happened to me. The other time was actually before I moved here to Orlando. At the time, so I've got 3 kids. Okay. We got a 4th one on the way.
Nice, congrats.
It was, we actually had the 3rd one on the way when I moved here. Okay. And it was one of those times still where like I remember I was flying here for the interview. And I was at the airport in Colorado Springs, sitting in my car in the parking lot, and thinking, "What am I doing?" Like it was another one of those times. Like I've got a family, I've got kids. Like I'm gonna go to a place we've never been before. Don't know if this is the right fit for me. Like, but I think feeling that way is kind of a testament that it's a big deal. But once you get over that, then there are good things happening, kind of thing.
Yeah, I've always. Growing up, I think that something my parents instilled in me and something that I've grown to realize is that being uncomfortable is sometimes a good thing, right? I think when you're getting uncomfortable, you're kind of pushing those boundaries for you, whether that's, moving somewhere or that's taking on a job that maybe, you're feeling uncomfortable a little bit about or is putting you out of your comfort zone. But I think those moments really help define you a little bit and take you to that next level.
Absolutely. Yeah, and then you look back and you're like, that was worth it. And now I look back and I'm like, we've had it's been such a roller coaster since we've been here, just for a bunch of different reasons. Right. And you think, if I had stayed where I was before, it would have been easier, but I probably wouldn't be, as happy as I am now, right? Or seen as many blessings that I've seen. Right. So. Right.
Something, I can relate to a degree. So both of my parents are actually originally from Cuba. And so when they came over, they had a similar experience to where they actually left a couple family, like not direct family members, but they had cousins and aunts and uncles that they left behind. And so when they came over, it was similar for them. They didn't speak the language here. They kind of had to learn it. So though I've never experienced that, I've always heard that through them. So I can relate just a little bit. But I can imagine for you coming over here and having to learn a new language, being in an entirely new place, being away from your family and all that. I mean, I can only imagine that's a tough jump to take.
So. It is, but I mean, again, I'm not the first one to have done it, and I'm sure there'll be others after me. So but it's a good experience, that's for sure.
Definitely. And so so I kind of wanted to follow the timeline before we jump into the magic. So you had the job out of school where you were a recruiter, and then you went and you were in traditional sports, right, for the 2-2 team in soccer. And so what was during your transition from college to that, when you were going out of school, you're like, okay, I want to go into something in sports. I know that's kind of what you were studying. How did you have like a sport you wanted to go into, or did the soccer opportunity come up, or how did that play out?
Yeah, so obviously my first choice was soccer always. Okay. Again, that's what I grew up doing. Yeah. But Colorado Springs at that time didn't have a soccer team. Only Denver did. Okay. And so actually, when I found out that the team was coming to town, it was one of those like, let's try something, right? So like, I remember I emailed the ownership of that soccer team that I just found online, and I said, hey, listen, this is me, this is who I am. Like, not only I know soccer, but like I'm into business. Although it was the beginning of my career. Right. I was like, put me wherever you want. I'll try it. Like I'll do it. And so obviously in sports, the easiest way, it's not an easy job, but the easiest way to get in is ticketing. Right. Once you do it, it's not an easy job by any means. But, but it's the easiest way to enter a sports organization. So that's what I did. I did tickets, and then within a few months, things. It was a small team, so it was probably easier to make your way up. There weren't so many steps in between. Right. But yeah, at the end of the day, that's what I did, and got into ticketing, then partnerships, and then all the way to director of partnerships. Wow, that's awesome. And so how long the director of partnerships role, or even when you started the partnerships, how long did you do that for them? Was it for a couple of years? Or? Yeah, so overall I was there for 3.5 years. Okay, gotcha. So again, smaller team, so all hands on board. Yeah. It's at the game, I remember it was Colorado Springs, so Colorado, the weather is crazy. You never know what's going to happen, right? So it can be great, but it can be awful. So there are times when like literally the morning of the games we wake up and just the field is completely packed with snow, and it's my goodness. Oh no, what do we do? So anybody in there, from the ticketing guy to the owner of the team, like, we just went in and started working, and like getting the snow off the field, and like that's just that kind of so again, not easy, but that's part of the job. So part of it. You do it and you help the team grow. Right? Yeah, that's awesome. It sounds like it was a great team experience and really all hands on deck. Yeah. And so the Orlando Magic opportunity that you touched on, that you were flying down here, and that was one of the pivotal decisions you had to make. But how did that opportunity originally arise? You were in traditional sports with the soccer team. Were you looking to pivot into esports, or what is the background story on how this opportunity came about? Yeah, honestly, I wasn't. I knew, just for personal reasons, I knew it was time for me to move on from the team that I was with. But I didn't know where I was going to go, and you know how these go. Like you can spend, even if you start looking seriously, it can take 6 months, right? Right. So you never know. So when the Orlando Magic opportunity came up, I really I saw on I think it was Indeed. I was just looking around just to have an idea what was going on. Yeah. And I remember seeing, I actually lied earlier. We actually have been to Orlando once. I was with my wife on our honeymoon. Yeah. Oh, okay. So that was the only time we've been in Orlando. Nice. And so I saw Orlando, which we liked when we were here. I saw obviously the Magic, which I remember as a kid, no idea why or how, but I remember having a Orlando Magic cap on. No way. Yeah. Okay. And I had pictures with it. I don't know why or how I got it. This was when you were still over in France. Oh yeah. Really? Wow. Okay. Little kid. Like, that's funny how I got it, but. That's interesting. Yeah, you never know how things work. Right. Right. And anyway, so I liked the Magic. Like I didn't know the whole history behind it, but so the fact that it's Orlando, and then I saw esports, and I saw Magic Gaming, and I thought that's interesting. So I started looking a little more into it. Right. Applied. So they flew me here, and again, funny story. You usually after, because I've been in recruiting, so like after interviews, I like to think I'm a good interviewer, but maybe they felt differently. Right. After interviewing here, it was just a tough one. Just because, not because of the people in the room, just like it was a very late flight. I think I got here in Orlando. It was like 12:30, and they had asked me to put a presentation together for them, which I just come from Utah from a different interview, so I was a little bit behind, like trying to do this. So I think I slept like an hour and a half, 2 hours that night. Wow. I get up, I've got a headache, I'm hungry. They text me and say, hey, we've got food for you here if you want to. No, they said make sure you eat at the hotel before you get here. Okay. And somehow I was too tired, I messed it up. I thought they said we got food here. So I showed up at the interview and there's no food, obviously. It's not that kind of interview. Right. And so just a tough, like, and anyway, I go through the whole interview, met great people, and I remember walking out of that interview. And they probably don't know this, so they'll find out now. But I walked out and I was in the hallway and I called my wife and I said, like, I don't think this is gonna work. And I was wishing it could work. I just didn't feel like I gave my best. And then by the time I got to the airport, I got a call back from from somebody here at the Magic and say, hey, we like you, we're interested.
Wow.
And so from there on, like, we kept in touch and worked a few details, and then it got crazier because I had to move the family across the country. So literally, my wife was expecting a third. So I said, I thought she's been an amazing support through all this. So
That's awesome.
I told her, listen, like, we have a choice. Either we have the baby here, because she was ready to pop. She was
okay. So she was like,
literally like 2 weeks later.
Okay, wow.
So it was like, hey, either we have the baby in Colorado with your family, and then we, move across country with a brand new baby, or and you get induced, or we just go to Orlando and then we just have the baby there. Right? We won't have anybody else around. So let's have it here.
Okay.
So meaning that we had the baby there, she got induced, and then we drove 27 hours with a 2-week-old.
Wow.
It's a funny story because we technically, so her mom came with us to help out. So it was her mom, our kids, and the baby in the car, and then I was in the truck driving everything else, right? I mean, if I had to be in one or the other, I think that truck was not a bad place to be, because it was just me, like, just doing my thing. But so again, she's amazing.
That's awesome.
For going through all this, so then we are here.
That's crazy. It's interesting to hear. It's funny because when we do these interviews, like, there's obviously to a degree where I kind of look people up to see what their past experiences have been. But when you sit down and hear people's story, it's always interesting to hear some of the personal things people have done. And it's just funny. I feel like everyone's had those tough moments in their life, and sometimes maybe we don't hear about it. But it's interesting to see that you guys have had a couple, and it's cool to see how you kind of pushed through together as a group, especially like you and your wife together. That's really cool.
Yeah, for sure.
When you got to Orlando, you started the job with Magic. Was it just a whole new world to you? Or I know you said you grew up a little bit and you had that interest in playing video games, but was esports as an industry, was that new to you when you got here?
Yeah, so literally the day they flew me back home after the interview, I spent the entire flight watching Netflix and esports documentaries.
Okay.
I want to make sure, because again, it was new, and I knew a little bit more of the sports side, but all those other games out there that are actually the biggest games in the world, right? The League of Legends and the not the Overwatch, but the CS:GOs and like all those games that I knew the name, that was it. I just wanted to understand it, right? And I wasn't going to take the job until I really understood what this was about. So I'm still not an expert in all of those games, but at least I understand the space now. And so I think that was a big piece for me, was to try to really get a better knowledge of what esports is like. Really, I hadn't gone to like an esports event before, and so. When they called me, one of the first calls I had with Magic, they asked me, do you play video games? And I said, yeah, I do, but I got to be honest with you, I'm not a gamer. Like, I'm not a hardcore, like, I'm in business, right? I got kids, I don't have a lot of time to play, like, and they told me, they said, absolutely, and that's what we're looking for. Like, we're looking for somebody who knows the partnership aspect. Esports, you'll get into it and we'll help. So. So I think we kind of all grew. We hired people here as part of Magic Gaming who were clearly gamers, who understood the space perfectly. So I think it made it easier on all of us, right? I have the business side, and then we have other people in here that who understand esports. Yeah. And so
do you think those people helped you? I know you're doing some of your own research on your own time, but was having those people in house that did know the industry? Did you kind of like use them as a source of education and kind of like asking them questions and get you to have them teach you the industry a little bit?
Yeah, and it's I like to think I'm not that old, but I'm still older than a lot of them. Right? So like I'm actually 35 now. So
you're still super young.
Yeah, but like there's some guys in esports that are just super young.
14 years old. Right? Yeah.
So like it's amazing to see how we can help each other. When I see the players now at Magic Gaming, they can be 20, 21, like maybe a little bit older. They live in the space, right? So like when it comes to like social media, when it comes to I'm on it, but I'm not as active as they might be. So there are plenty of things that I can learn from them, right? And so hopefully I can bring something on the business side. I think that's why the team's been working great. We've had the right people at the right place. So we all take care of what we have to take care of. And then if we need help, there's somebody else we can ask. So
that's awesome. Yeah, definitely. It seems like you've had the opportunity to have a really good team environment in both cases, both with the soccer team and then now here. So that's really exciting and awesome to hear. When the question that I was wondering is, so you saw the traditional side and then you came into esports. How different they're different industries, obviously, but how different was it for you to do partnerships in traditional sports compared to in esports? Was there a learning curve for you? Did you find it similar, or what were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's similar. I mean, again, like, yeah, there are differences because it's a different, like, you're not going to sell knives the same way you would sell, like, cars, right? Like,
right.
It's obviously a bad example, but, like, but it's still sales, sell partnerships. So I think a big part of partnerships is that, and the reason why I'm in it is the whole kind of relationship-based, piece that, you don't just sell something and then you never see those guys again, right? Like, you literally work with the partners every day, like, so it's on you, right? So you develop it. I'm literally in touch still with partners that I've signed like years ago from different teams, right? So that's the biggest piece. So again, it is kind of a different sale because it's a different product, right? You're trying to reach a different demographic, so it is different. Although I would say, out of all the sports out there, I think soccer reaches that younger demographic better than some other sports. So there's some similarities for sure.
Yeah, and I think too, soccer similar to esports compared to, I mean, I think if you're comparing it to like the NBA or NFL, it's more of an international sport. So I think awareness-wise, you have a little bit more globally compared to like, playing football or basketball or something like that. So, and that was something I was going to ask you is, did having that initial network when you were with the soccer team, did that network, were you able to like leverage that, or did it help you when you came into esports? Were there maybe relationships you had there that you're like, hey, I'm pivoting into esports, or you informed them, or was there any like correlation there between those two?
Not at all.
None.
No. And the reason is that it was a smaller soccer team.
Right.
So all of our partners were local.
Right.
So that was the hard part. Is like, in partnerships you spend years kind of developing those relationships, right? And then you leave. And so like, again, I keep in touch with them, but it's not for business reasons. It's just because we're friends. Like,
right.
So I literally like, and funny enough, I've never looked for this, but every job I've had, when I started as a recruiter, they asked me, we don't want you to contact anybody else who's been contacted. Like, you've got a blank book of business. So you just go out and sell.
Okay.
So I did that, and then the soccer team, it was a brand new soccer team, so there's nothing to rely on.
Ground bottom again, basically.
Again. And then I get here, and the Magic have been around for 30 years, but esports is brand new. So like, I keep getting into these positions where I just have to build something from the ground up, and I think it's super rewarding, but it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
So I wish I could have used my connections from my last job to come here and help, but it wasn't the case. Yeah.
Right. Do you like the uphill battle? Like, is it exciting you to go into a role like you did something with the Magic where it was at the ground level, and you've been a big part of building that up? Really, is that something that's exciting to you, or do you like to come into a space where maybe they have built up a little bit?
I think there are days I feel differently. Right? Like, there are days I'm like, man, I wish I had those connections. But overall, I think it's great to see like Magic Gaming. The 2K League has been around for 3 years now. Looking back and see, when I first walked in that studio that you and I saw earlier.
Yeah, amazing studio.
There's literally nothing. It was just black walls everywhere. Right?
Really?
There's nothing in there, right? So like, looking at what it was then compared to what it's now,
right?
And seeing the players go through, seeing like all the partners bring, it's obviously you can only be proud, right? I'm just always super hard on myself, so there's always more to do, and always I think we still have a way to go, but sometimes it's fun to sit back a little bit and see what you've accomplished and say, all right, it's not that bad. It's gone pretty well.
Yeah, no, I think I think a lot of people can relate with this, is when there's a lot of things going on, a lot of exciting things going on, and you're building something, it's hard to maybe pause for a moment and take a step back and realize what all is really unfolding, because it's on to the next thing or on to the next project. And so I think some people just have that hustle mentality to keep going. And I know for myself personally, I sometimes have to like okay, I got to take a step back, where I'm at in my life, what's some of the cool things that have happened recently, and enjoy those moments. And I think that it's tough though, because you want to keep building, you want to keep taking that next step as fast as you can. So
and when you're in the middle of it, it's hard to like just stop, right? You just want to keep going, especially in sales.
Right.
You gotta keep selling, you gotta keep going. So it's it's tough, but I think it helps from like hearing from other people's perspectives, right? Even just like I listen to podcasts, I do like stuff just to understand what other people have gone through. I think I see, not to compare myself. There's still a long way to go, like I said, but it's always good to hear other people's opinions.
It is. Absolutely. No, I think I was telling you a little bit about this when before we started is that's kind of what has pivoted into the theme of this podcast is really just hearing people's stories, because I'm similar to you where I love to hear where people have started, where they've come from. I think, like you're saying, not to compare yourself, but really just to give yourself a little bit of context. And really you can learn a lot of times from other people's experiences, because not everyone walks the same path in life, right? We all have different experiences. To pivot a little bit really into your role, I want to dive into that and to give you some context. So a lot of the listeners here, what I try to do is I try to bring on different people that are different parts in the industry, right? So maybe we have a GM in the 2K league or GM in another team, and I really just try to bring diverse perspectives. And so we really haven't had anyone that's been like the director of partnerships or director of sponsorships. So I was excited not only because we were with Magic 2K, but to really dive into your role. So if you just want to give us like a quick 2-minute rundown of, what are some of the responsibilities you have with your role, what's your day-to-day look like, just a little bit of in-depth as much as you can.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. So I'm the esports partnership manager for Magic Gaming. So I was hired specifically to help bring revenue for Magic Gaming.
Mm-hmm.
So as you know, every sports team has a partnership department, and sometimes when it's a big team like Magic, they're going to have both the sales team and then the activation team.
Mm-hmm.
So people go out and sell partnerships. Then once we're the partner on board, we have a team that handles them specifically.
Okay.
Obviously for us, it's me, right? So I've got a team that I work with, and I get help on the Magic side as well. But it's all that's my main focus and my main responsibilities is the entire sales process, if you will, right? From prospecting to negotiating, signing partners, activating once they're on board, renewing them or renewing the partnerships. So that's the kind of the core piece of what I do, and obviously we're a small team, so you wear many hats and you help wherever you can help, but that's the core.
Right. When you're looking for, and again, as much as we can talk into this, let me know if I'm like charting any waters that we can. But when you're looking for a potential sponsor, and you're doing that for Magic Gaming, is there for your team? Is there a fit that you look for? Is there some specific in partnerships you look for? Is it a lot of endemic brands? Is it non-endemic brands, or kind of how do you go about that?
That's a good question. It's I could talk about this for hours. We actually had an esports partnership summit. We try to have that every year.
Yes,
We host it at the Amway Center, and then we have current partners and potential partners that come, and so we talk about this kind of thing.
Right.
It's tricky because you could find partners anywhere, right? So
right.
I think when you're in partnership, you just got to be aware of what's going on. So literally, when there are commercials between the games, I pay attention to what brands are advertising, right? No, I don't care about the commercials themselves. Just something that you just do it naturally after a while. But again, it's very different what we do from what the Magic sell, right? It's a different demographic. It's most of what we do is digital.
Mm-hmm.
So I think what we've come across is we technically have a local brand that reaches a national audience.
Gotcha.
So that's the tricky piece, is to find the brands that are okay with that, right? If there are big marketing agencies out there, they might look at the numbers on the 2K side and say, that's not high enough for us, or right. Or the local ones are going to love the attention that we're getting, but maybe they don't have the budget for this, right? So it's always trying to find. So when it comes to finding those partners, I personally spend a lot of time on LinkedIn. I just think it's a great tool.
I love LinkedIn. I'm with you on that.
Yeah, it's amazing to see how the engagement. It's great to see how you can literally when you message somebody, you can see if they've seen it. You can see if they're actually connected. If they're live. So it's just I find it easier. I think it's more of a genuine way to approach partnerships.
Right.
But aside from that, I think I get calls sometimes from other teams in the league, asking me, hey, what do you think is the best approach? Well, I think it depends on your personality, right?
Right.
So does that?
That definitely I think dives into it a bit. And I actually meant to ask you this question at the beginning, but we can talk about this. So correct me if I'm wrong. You were the first partnership manager for a 2K team in NBA history.
I was the first one to be hired. Yeah.
Okay, so I mean that's a pretty big deal, I think. So was that shocking to you, when you were learning about the role when you were getting down here, that there weren't other teams that had that, or what was that like? I think
it shows the way just take the NBA or any other leagues. Not every team is going to approach business the same way. Right. And I think the Magic decided to go all in, so they hired somebody who was all in and who just players, to spend 100% of their time looking for partnerships for esports specifically.
Right.
And I think 2 years later, now I think we can see that I hope they feel the same way.
Yeah.
That it's paid off. And since then, there have been others who've been hired. But I think a lot of the teams, what they did was, right off the bat, was just take esports and put it as a kind of an added value for their NBA team to sell. Right? Okay. And we felt like that was the wrong approach, because esports has its own value and it's its own, like I said, you have to understand what you're selling.
Right.
And a lot of them, I think, didn't. And so that's kind of how we decided to approach it.
Right.
Is have somebody there 100%, dedicated to this, and then try to grow from there.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And so I want to dive into a little bit of the sponsorships that you guys have secured, and I'll let you kind of take that where you want. But one that I did want to highlight, I believe you guys were in a Super Bowl commercial, right? There was a glimpse of the Magic 2K team in one of the Super Bowl ads. I don't know if there's like a direction you want to comment on that, or kind of what that was like to be able to have that moment, right?
Yeah. I wasn't on it, so I was kind of disappointed, but
you wanted to be in the commercial.
I wanted to be in the commercial. Yeah.
I don't blame you.
No, but it's so our presenting sponsor since pretty much day one has been Orlando Health.
Okay.
And so they, we've done a lot with them, and actually, they were the ones. Our partnership received the Partnership of the Year award from the NBA 2K League this past year.
Okay. Congrats.
Yeah, thanks. So I mean, again, it's both teams, right? It's just a lot of work that we've done together, and they're a great team to work with. So there are times like that when we'll just call each other and say, hey, we're doing this, you want to be a part of it? And they reached out. They sponsor multiple teams here in Florida, and so they said, hey, we're gonna have a piece in the Super Bowl. Do you want to be a part of it? So of course I said yes.
Definitely.
And then it was great. And it was kind of cool because we actually heard back afterwards from them about they had like analytics about numbers on social media and stuff, and the most recognition they got was from us being part of that.
Really?
Yeah, of that clip, which
was
interesting. I thought it was great. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it speaks again. It's funny because it shows the value behind gaming and how big it's getting and how much more it is being recognized now.
No, and especially on the ability to have that exposure on such a national level where, when we're talking about a Super Bowl ad, I think that's a moment where when we're talking about the general public, people actually do pay attention to the commercials. So for you guys to hit the highest numbers on that or whatever the engagements were, I think that kind of speaks about where the industry's going and how people are beginning to really ramp up and look into it.
Sure.
So you said you guys were awarded the Partnership of the Year in Local Activation by the NBA.
Correct.
And so that another big moment for you guys. Can you talk a little bit more about what that award specifically is and really how you guys went about that?
Yep. So the NBA has partnership awards or business awards on the NBA side, but they also started that on the 2K League side as of last year. So it was the first time they were doing it. They presented 4 different awards, and Magic Gaming got 2 out of the 4. So obviously we're very proud of what was accomplished. And there were last year we had 21 teams. Each has a certain number of partners. So for us to get 2 out of the 4, it was a big accomplishment. And I hope it shows the kind of the level of engagement that we put into this, right?
Yeah.
It's a partnership award, so it's not like it's just us. It's
obviously
the partners that got the award did a lot of work to make this happen too. But so we got the Partnership of the Year for Orlando Health. And then, which was the biggest one, and then we got the Local Activation of the Year for Full Sail University.
That's awesome. Okay.
And again, so 2 local partners.
Yeah.
And Full Sail, I think what was special there was the ticket tournament that we hosted last year. So the 2K League, for the first time, went out of market or out of New York to have a tournament in place, and where all 21 teams participated.
Okay.
And they picked us,
Interesting.
Magic Gaming, and Full Sail. And so Full Sail has a facility called the Fortress, which is a great facility if you haven't been, and that's where we had the event. So I think that was a big part of the reason why we got the award is there was so much work that went into that, and it was and still to this day, I think if you ask anybody in the 2K League what was their favorite tournament, I think they would tell you Full Sail.
It was Full Sail.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, Derek saying definitely.
I'm not making it up. Yeah.
No, that's awesome, and it's interesting because now I believe the NBA 2K League this year is doing more of those where you have some of the tournaments not being just in New York, where some of the home teams are having not home stands, but a tournament near them. How important do you think that is for the growth of the league and for the exposure of the league to get, not just be in New York, but to give someone, maybe like you're saying, local people that are supporting the brand and know of the brand, giving them an opportunity to come out and maybe cheer on their team.
Yeah, and I think if you look at esports as a whole, I think more and more leagues are trying to do that, right? Because obviously it's great that it's a digital, reach,
right?
Which allows you to just go global really quick.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you do have fans that are here locally that want to be a part of it, right?
Yeah.
So this year, the league awarded, I believe, 6 teams in the league to host a round robin.
Okay.
So we know we'll be the first ones.
Okay.
There's a theme there somehow. We keep but we will be the first ones. I think ours on May 23rd.
Okay.
Here in at Full Sail again, we'll have the Hawks, the Hornets, the Heat, and then us.
Nice.
Play a little tournament here. And
that's awesome.
I say little. I mean, the winners still get about 20 grand. So
that's awesome.
It's not bad.
Yeah, a nice bag on the prize.
So that's one, and then we've also been awarded the rivalry match.
Okay.
I think it's on June 27th.
Okay.
At Full Sail again, where this time it'll just be us against one other team.
Okay.
So again, the goal is now that we have those coming in market, let's just make sure that the partners are involved. Let's make sure that the fans are there. That we're trying to make it more than just a 2K event, right?
Right.
We want to make sure, why don't we have a fan fest with it? Why don't we have to really just have a full event around
experience.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of what we're trying to do.
Yeah, no, definitely, and I think it's always fun, and for maybe anyone that's listening that's new, just like I think you have in traditional sports where it's not just an NBA game you go to, right? It's a full experience. There's a lot of activations going around. I think that the more, it seems like the 2K League is really shifting, not that they haven't in the past, but now like with these round robins at home, I think that's really going to give them opportunity to give those local experiences.
Yeah, and I think they're also trying to get players from all around the country and around the world. So we had the league had a few invitationals around the world. One being in London, so it's and one in Asia. So it's again, the NBA is global. And
right.
I think they're trying to if you don't go global with esports, I think you're kind of missing the part, right?
Yeah.
So that's what we're trying to do.
Definitely. Is there any sponsorships? I know we talked about a couple of them, but is there any we haven't named that just for you personally? I mean, I'm sure all of your sponsors are amazing, but has there been any one for you that personally you're really proud of, or there was one that you were working on for a while and you got, or that you've had the best experience with? I was kind of putting you on the spot, but
no. I got to tell you, we've been lucky because all the partners, and that goes back to your other question, which was are they a good fit as partners?
Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, there are partnerships that we just say no to. There are partners just because if it's not a fit, it's not a fit, and I think that's the main difference when we go out and try to make things happen. Is it's got to make sense.
Right.
And yeah, you can push. I would argue some teams might push to the point where you find a way to make it work, but at the end of the day, I think if it's a natural fit, then the partnership is going to be so much more successful.
Right.
So, yeah, if I name one, I'm going to feel bad for all the other ones. But we talked about the guys who got the awards. These are two, both Orlando Health and Full Sail have been amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, we also have endemic partners, as you can imagine. So they're not as, it's not as much of a local feel. But they're super helpful in everything that we do. So we've had Alienware. We literally just signed a partner yesterday that I can't yet talk about because we haven't announced it.
No worries.
And there are a few more coming too. But I don't know if you watched the draft.
I watched a little bit. I watched a lot of the recap videos, so I was not able to catch it live, but I definitely went back because I didn't watch it last year at all. So when it happened this year, I was like, okay, I gotta watch a little bit more and see what it's like.
Yeah. So I'm mentioning the draft because we actually brought in Amway as a presenting partner for the draft.
Okay.
Yeah. So
that's big.
So that's another big one. So they were everywhere, when it comes to the drafts on our side.
Yeah.
So there's some names I can't list yet, but pay close attention because it's coming in the next few weeks.
Definitely. So everybody be on the lookout. Something I want to ask you for your personal experience. So you got here during year 1 or year 2?
I got here before the league started.
Before the league started. Yeah. So how have you seen the league evolve from when you stepped in here with the Magic to where it's at right now? Maybe what are some things you think the league is doing really well, as well as maybe what do you think are some things that the league could constructively work on? Always interested to hear. I think the league is evolving and growing so much. It's always interesting to hear people's takes on that.
Sure.
So I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, my thoughts might be just mine, right? Like,
yeah, no, definitely. This is like opinionated on our perspective.
Yeah.
This is not like,
I don't speak for the Magic.
Yeah.
But I would say, year one, I think it was a lot of work on the league side to make something happen, just to make it happen, right? It's a brand new league, so having all those franchises that are coming in, and so I think year one was really just, the goal was to just have a product on the floor. That makes sense. Right?
Yeah.
Year two, I think you saw a clear change in the way the league, helped the teams. Like, I think it was, marketing wise, there's a lot more effort that we put into pushing the NBA 2K League, the teams, the draft. Like, and then year three, I kind of feel like that's not only going up, but that's also going global. Like I told, I talked about earlier.
Yeah. You have partners like Gen G stepping into that added really an actual international element to it. Really,
and I would say when things we could improve, I think one thing is if we do want this to be global, then we got to make sure that we give a better chance for those guys that are global. So I would argue that, and being from France, I might take their side, but the guys, I think we had 9 guys in the draft that were from Europe this year who and nobody got drafted. Right? So I don't know if they're good enough to be drafted or not. That's not my call. Right. I do think just to qualify to the draft and go through that whole process, I think it's a difficult process, and it's even worse if you're not here in the U.S. Right? Yeah. There's bandwidth. There's like a bunch of other things that you need to worry about. So I think that's going to be the next step. I think the league is looking into this and how do we, Gen G, I think is it's a perfect example. I mean, they came on board. Hopefully, we'll have teams from maybe Europe next year. And I think that will really be, once you can get everybody involved the right way, it will be amazing to see if there is that much of a gap in gameplay or in talent as what we think there is. Right.
No, and when I think about traditional NBA, you do have the Olympics that happens. I can't remember if basketball side is every 4 years or how it works, but when you do have the NBA that has the USA team and you go play in the Olympics, it's always very fun, at least for me. I'm speaking on my personal perspective because I'm a huge basketball fan. It's fun to watch styles of plays of other countries compared to the United States. And so I think it'd be interesting if the 2K League does go there, where now it's not just like an Olympics, it's on a day-to-day basis, and you're getting to see those styles and those different personalities. I think that would add a nice flair to it and a nice take. I don't know. I think it would be fun to watch.
Did you contact the 2K League and tell them?
No.
You should give them the idea.
I should give them the idea, yeah. Maybe we'll call them on the way home.
Maybe they'll go with it.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, no, but it'd be cool to see. What do you think, and we'll kind of start to wrap things up here, just a couple more questions for you. How important, again, sitting on the partnership side, how important do you think it is to have strategic partners for the health and the longevity of the league, right? For it to continue to expand and grow and have that awareness. Do you think that partnerships play a really key role in that? Do you think it's partnerships and something else, or what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there are a lot of moving pieces. I'm focused on partnerships, so that's my, obviously that's what I see. But I mean, just looking at Magic Gaming, right? 98% of our revenue is sponsorships. Right? So because you don't have the opportunity to go out and sell tickets, and so I've not actually heard that for this season the league, so they switched to a new venue in Manhattan. And so they actually have season tickets now, so you can actually go and buy season tickets to the NBA.
I saw that,
which is cool. But again, we'll sell tickets for times when we have a local event, but it's not something you can really rely on.
Right.
So looking at the way we operate, and I'm guessing all the other teams are doing the same thing. Partnerships is the main piece of that all, right? So again, there's the gameplay piece, all the guys and all the work that's been done on getting the best talent here as part of the league, and then you've got the business piece, which is clearly partnership focused.
Definitely. Where do you overall, not now just talking outside of even just the 2K League, but, and again, to the best of your ability, what do you think? Where do you see esports in 5 years? What's your future forecast or your hot take on where esports as an industry will be in a couple of years?
Oh man, you gotta ask Gary Vee. He'll tell you.
There you go.
I like the way he talks about it.
I'm a big Gary Vee fan. I like him.
I mean, what I try to tell the partners is this is all about, it's all digital. It's all about technology. It's all about, you think technology is gonna die? in the next few years? Do you
Probably
think
not.
digital is going to go away? No, I think it's just going to get more and more. So it's I don't know where it'll be in 5 years, but I can tell you the leagues that are in place, and I'm sure there'll be other ones, but the leagues that are in place are all going to grow tremendously. And I think the 2K League is one of those. Again, I think you got to be fair to the games that are out there. Like, is the 2K League going to be the next League of Legends? I don't believe so. That's not. It's a different world. It's a different game.
Right.
But there's room for improvement, and I think it's been great to see the way partners have been getting involved. And again, you look at all the marketing teams, and Gary Vee actually talks about this. It's hard for a marketing team to just drop money from a different pocket and say, let's just invest in esports. Right? So I think as esports keeps developing and growing, I think those same marketing teams are trying to pay closer attention. They're like, oh, okay, going back to the Super Bowl, we were in the Super Bowl, but it's kind of a smaller, local piece.
Right.
There are many commercials in the Super Bowl that had esports.
Oh, there was.
It, right? Yeah. So again, like, you can tell that marketing teams are really trying to pay attention. So it can only go up from here. Looking at the last 3 years that we've been involved, or 2 years, and where it's now, it's not a day already. So there's no reason for it to stop. Another good example is what happened with the CS:GO tournament in Poland. With the coronavirus, and everything else going on. They had the event was closed doors, behind closed doors, but they beat a record. They set a record in viewership online. Right?
I saw that this morning or yesterday. Yeah.
That's a perfect example. Like, that's something that in traditional sports usually won't happen. Right. Esports, it kind of, again, like that whole virus that's going around. It's very sad, right? Right. And yet you have the only numbers that are going up are esports, because that's something that you can do from home.
Digital.
That's digital. You know what I mean? So like, I think esports is a lot less at risk with what's coming in the future compared to traditional sports. And I'm a huge sports fan in general.
Definitely.
But that's kind of my take on it.
No, I think that's a good take, and I agree with you that is a plus to esports where you don't. And I know ESPN has kind of begun to have like streaming apps and stuff, right? But you don't have every ESPN channel. I don't think that you can stream for free. Whereas a lot of these leagues are getting streamed on YouTube or Twitch, where it doesn't require a fee. It doesn't cost you anything to watch it. You can pull it up from your phone. It's very easily accessible. And I think that, to your point, I agree with you. I'm a huge traditional sports fan as well, but I think that traditional sports could learn something from esports. That's kind of where this next generation is going, especially for consuming content. And it'll be interesting to see, I believe when the NBA earlier last year had the FIBA and the USA was playing, Twitch had the exclusive streaming rights to that. And I thought that was super interesting to see that move from the NBA, where they didn't want it on ESPN, NBA TV, or, any of those other channels. They wanted it through Twitch. And so it'll be interesting to see if more moves like that happen, or kind of where traditional and esports land together. But
for sure. And then just look at the brands that are getting involved. There are brands that, 5 years ago, nobody would have guessed they could be involved, like the Louis Vuitton and the...
Louis Vuitton,
Like, there's some massive brands out there that are just, so there is something for everybody in there. And I think that's starting to really resonate with a lot of brands.
Yeah, and one last thing too, I want to touch back on your Super Bowl point. So my wife and I were watching the Super Bowl, and obviously, since I'm doing all this in esports and gaming, I was really excited when you saw like Tim the Tap Man in a commercial, you saw Booga in the Sabra commercial, and then we saw you guys in the Orlando Health commercial.
Ninjas out there.
Yeah, and it was just cool to watch so many of those gaming influencers, quote unquote, I guess you could say, and to see guys like people like you guys that are actually in the leagues get at least a moment in a Super Bowl commercial. And I think that, I would take a hot take that next year it's going to be really interesting to see how many people in gaming and esports have a moment during the Super Bowl commercial, and what brands they incorporate. I think you're definitely going to see a lot more than what you saw this year.
Well, and now you have a lot more athletes, like traditional sports athletes, that are also getting involved in gaming. Right?
Yeah.
So it just only goes together, right? So
definitely.
A lot coming for sure.
Well, last question I have for you. I thought this would kind of be a fun question. So you mentioned you have kids.
Yep.
I know you have played traditional sports. You played soccer. You're also on the esports side. As your kids grow up, are you going to be are you going to push more traditional sports, or are you going to push more esports? What are you going to lean more towards?
Do I have a pass somewhere? No, I got to tell you, I've been very strict with my kids about like, you know, any kind of screen time.
Yeah.
My wife and I are on the same page. Like, the only thing they watch right now are like documentaries, or if they watch like a Disney movie, it's got to be in French. It's kind of like that's my deal with them. It's like because I want them to learn the language. So
Right.
So that being said, until recently, and I'm in esports, right?
Yeah.
Until recently, I felt that way. I felt like that's just the way I'm going to be, because I want them to just, you know, I don't want them to just live digitally, right? I want them to see what's out there.
Right.
But the other day I was actually listening to Gary Vee, one of his podcasts.
Yeah.
You might have heard that one, and he's talking about how you know, the same people now that are parents that are kind of blaming kids for being on social media and being on, you know, living on the digital space, are the same people who at that age would spend that exact amount of time just doing something else that didn't matter. Like it could be, you know, reading magazines. It could be like whatever they're doing, right? And so it kind of put things in perspective for me in a way that. If you look at, to go back to your last question, if you look at where technology is going to be in the next 5 years or 10 years, I also don't want my kid to be behind, because that's clearly the space that they're going to have to live into. Right. So I think there's a fine line, there's a right balance to find between you know, allowing your kids to be familiar with that space, and then if really that's what they love, then great. But also, you know, go out there, go see somewhere else. I think there are plenty of things out there you can do as well, right? So it's a tough one. I think I might go back and forth as I keep parenting, but
understand.
That's kind of where I am right now.
No, definitely, and you know, it's funny because I think when I was growing up through high school, like technology was obviously growing as it has grown every single year, but you're seeing more and more of that playing out into the school system too, where like I have an 11-year-old sister and like they do so much on iPads or computers. Like it's a lot of that's what they're growing up with, and so you can only imagine how the economy and the whole market is just going to move towards that, because that's how the next generation is growing up. That's where they're going to get really good with things that past generations weren't, and it's going to be super interesting to see. I feel like in a couple of years I'm going to feel dumb when it comes to technology. I kind of some days already feel like, wow, how do I not know that? You know,
there will be a gap, and I think there's a gap now when you talk to, like, again, those marketing teams that are trying to you know, understand the space and literally you have to explain what everything is about esports. And it's funny, right? Because I think that in a few years, like you and I will be in a position where we'll be these people that make those decisions, and I think we'll have that knowledge, but there'll be something new. Right?
Exactly.
So it's always going to be something we gotta catch up with.
Definitely. Well, that really wraps everything up. I want to thank you again for hosting us here in Magic Gaming headquarters. This is really cool. Thank you for showing us the room next door and for touring us around the facility and taking the time to come out on the podcast.
Well, thank you so much for having me. Yeah, it was fun. I've listened to a few of your podcasts in the past. Thank you. I think you guys do a great job, so
appreciate it.
For being here.
Is there anywhere for anyone listening that they can find you on social media, the best place to connect with you or follow some of the content you're putting out?
Yeah, at Magic Gaming, we're you know, quite active on obviously Twitter, Instagram. You know, we have our own channel on Twitch. You know, I think we do a good job. I mean, again, like we still trying to grow, and but we're very you know, the viewers that we have and the fans that we have are you know, quite engaged. And, so yeah, we recommend. I mean, keep an eye out for what's coming. Not just on the partnership side, because like I said, we're going to announce a few new partners, but also, like, you know, we always have giveaways. We always have we find ways to just make it fun. And then all those events. I think we have between now and July, we have like 8 or 9 events that are planned here in Orlando. Right? So there's a lot coming. So I'd recommend anybody who's interested, make sure you follow. Definitely.
So if you're tuning in the Orlando area or a surrounding area, definitely make sure to be on the lookout, follow their social media, and see when these events are going on. For everybody who's listening on the audio version of this, appreciate any new listeners that are checking out the podcast, as well as any returning listeners. Thank you guys for the continued support and really just the subscribers, the 5-star reviews, everything that helps the podcast move up in the charts. If you guys are watching on YouTube today, thank you guys for tuning in on the video version. If you're watching on audio or listening on audio and want to go check out the YouTube, go and check that out. But with that being said, that kind of wraps it up, and we'll catch you next week. Appreciate it. Thanks for coming on.